Welcome to Spotlight on Excellence, the show that equips you with essential business tools that will elevate your business to the ultimate level of success. I'm your host, Michael McDonough. As an entrepreneur, like many of you watching, I've faced the same hurdles that you've faced on the road to success. And I found that one of the most effective ways to achieve success is to model success. In other words, find someone who has blazed the path and follow in their footsteps so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, you just have to make it your own. Today we're focusing on how to build stronger relationships in your business. And our special guest is super connector Kimberly Reyes, and we'll be looking at how effective networking can be an essential part of your marketing success. Please welcome Kimberly Reyes.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on your show.
Welcome to the show, Kimberly, and welcome to our new studio.
It's wonderful.
We've upgraded, and you're the first one here, so we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you're an author and a public speaker, you write a blog, and you have a successful business as an interior decorator, but for a long time you were in corporate America, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what you did in the corporate life and why you left that to be an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. So my background actually was organizational development and training and development. So I spent a long time in corporate America doing team building for sales. I spoke in front of large audiences, 2,000 people or more, worked with lots and lots of groups of different women and men, helping them achieve corporate success. And it actually was a huge drag. I got burnt out, people weren't passionate anymore. That's what the entrepreneur is actually such a joy to work with, because they're so passionate and they want to learn. They're not just sitting in a corporate training room because they have to. They are so passionate about learning new skills.
Well, I was going to ask you, so do you miss the corporate world, but it doesn't sound like it.
You know, the only thing that entrepreneurs really miss and that I work with my clients about is collaborating. Collaboration is key, but when you're an entrepreneur, and in the new type of entrepreneur, we build communities and strong relationships and we learn how to collaborate. The only thing as a new entrepreneur that I ever missed was bouncing ideas off of each other.
Well, let's talk about building a community. I know you have a blog.
I do.
Is that the only way you're building communities these days?
No, absolutely not. I'm out there speaking. I love being a public speaker. I just released a book. I'm having a new book come out. I do workshops. I am a master networker.
Well, I want to talk to you more about that in just a minute, but before I do, I was interviewed just this past week for a blog, and they asked me a question I thought was really interesting, and I think it's a question that will help the audience get to know you better because of the question itself. And the question is, what do you have on your iTunes playlist right now?
What do I have in my playlist? Well, if it doesn't feed my soul or if it's not fun, I'm not doing it anymore. And when I left corporate America and became an entrepreneur, that's kind of my motto. And you'll find that that holds true throughout life. And you'll find a wide variety in my playlist. You'll find Black Eyed Peas, Fergie, meditation. It's all varied depending on where I'm going, what audience I'm going to go talk to, what kind of mood I want to be in. I enjoy the wide gamut. Jazz.
Well, I know you were singing Janis Joplin on the way over here, she told me. What was that all about?
You know, I also have a playlist in my car that gets me going, gets me in the mood, raises my energy. Janis Joplin is just one of those. Fergie's another big one.
That's great. Well, that shows a lot of character, because I like Janis Joplin too. Okay, let's get back to business. Now that the audience knows you, I know you've been talking to entrepreneur groups recently about how to socialize or maybe how to be a better networker. Tell me more about your presentations in regards to the introverts and extroverts and how you came up with that.
Absolutely. I have an absolute passion about introverts and extroverts. As a public speaker and as an over-the-top extrovert, what I found is that I would go into these large groups and I would speak to an audience, and afterwards the audience members would come up and speak to me. What I realized is that I was missing a huge part of the audience. About 50% of the audience are introverts and 50% are extroverts. It was the introvert that would come up and speak to me afterwards, and I realized that I wasn't connecting with that part of the audience.
Well, let's go to the footage and see what we've got, because I want to hear more of your presentation.
My first degree and background is in psychology. I have been hearing the word introvert and extrovert since I was a sophomore in high school. And it wasn't until my daughter came and sat in front of me and was very calm and said, "I'm not like you, I cannot be like you," that I started to look at introverts and extroverts completely differently. Introverts actually have their energy zapped by being around people. They need time to sit back, have time alone, and regenerate. As an extrovert, my energy level amps up when I'm around people. I can have 2 or 3 speaking engagements during the day. By the time I get home at night, I'm bouncing off the ceiling. And I can rally and go out dancing afterwards. Totally, completely different. Extroverts don't really like to be alone. It's a little bit lonely for us. Introverts crave that time alone. There's completely a difference. So how many of you identify with being an introvert? Do you need that time alone to recharge and re-energize? So why is this important in networking? Myers-Briggs, their website says that 52% of the people in the population are introverts. I beg to differ because every time I talk about this, the people that come up to me and tell me, oh my gosh, I never even realized I was an introvert, is enormous. I would say it's more than 52%. We're going to give you some networking techniques. The very first one that I want you to write down is when you enter a space, I want you to slow down, look around, and identify the people around you. This is important for introverts and extroverts. Introverts and extroverts need the same technique for different reasons. An introvert is a thinker. They are a processor. They move slower. An extrovert, like me, we're looking for the party. We want the fun person to talk to. We'll be up on the table dancing and find everybody else who's going to have a good time with us. Introverts move slower. They move into a space. They want to feel safe. So you guys are moving at different frequencies in the room. The problem with that is that if you don't identify who's in the room, you're never going to connect with those other people. Networking question. For all of you that have different groups and go to more than one group, I want you to think back over the last year and how many people that you've met in the last year are you still doing business with and they're supporting you and sending you business referrals? Okay? What about the last 3 years? You don't have to answer. You can keep this to yourself. However, start thinking back and think about your connections. Making authentic personal connections is how you build cheerleaders and you build a referral network that you'll have for life. I have my referral network from 30 years ago that I still am connected with, and they're my biggest cheerleaders online. This is super important. Seeing who's in front of you is super important. You guys are awesome. You guys are super engaged. Next thing I want you to think about is, I've got you in the room now. You're going in, you're looking at the other people. You're going to actually stop once you find your place. Introverts are going to go find your table, find a safe place. Don't worry about talking to anybody else. Just make sure you're safe. How do you identify an introvert in a room? Do you guys know? First thing is they're usually sitting on the outside. They're sitting on the exterior of the room, usually near an exit, because when they get overwhelmed by extroverts, they have an exit strategy. It's very true. So usually you can tell introverts are usually in the center of the room, talking in a group. It's also important to identify whether it's an introvert or an extrovert. We tend to be drawn to people who are like us. So when you walk in the room and you're an extrovert, you're going to be drawn to extroverts. You always see us grouping together. Once you feel comfortable, stop, breathe, look around, identify other people, and make a conscious effort to go and talk to somebody else that you recognize is the opposite of who you are.
Well, that's awesome. I remember seeing the presentation live, and every time I see it, it's excellent. And I have to say, it's a fascinating concept. It's counterintuitive to what most people believe. So tell us your definition of introvert and extrovert and how you came to define it this way. And why do most people believe that, or they associate being an introvert with shyness?
In my business and my consulting with clients, we just really want to break it down into manageable bites. Personality traits can be very, very complex. So I've come up with very simple tools and techniques and broken it down. An introvert and an extrovert. An introvert is someone that is drained by moving through a space with people, and they actually need time away to regroup and to energize. An extrovert is someone like myself that goes into a space and they are actually energized by different people. And for example, I go to speak and I may have 2 or 3 speaking engagements or networking events in one day. And the more people I come across, the more I'll be bouncing off the walls. My energy goes up, 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 up. So that's an extrovert. An introvert would be exhausted by moving through that space and need time away to regroup and re-energize.
Well, that's funny because most people wouldn't believe that I'm introverted, and neither would I. I know from the past that I've been a little shy, but today people wouldn't believe that if I told them. But after hearing your definition, I realized I am an introvert because when I get through with one of the presentations, when I get through here today, I'm going to be tired. And you're going to be going, when's the next show?
Absolutely. I'm going to go out for cocktails with friends. But when I explained that to you and I told you you were an introvert, you did not believe me.
No.
You did not believe me at all. But actually being shy has nothing to do with being an introvert. That's a misconception because that's really, you can have an extrovert that's shy as well. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with how you move through a space and how your energy is gathered and used and retained.
But tell me, why is it important for entrepreneurs to understand the difference between an introvert and an extrovert?
It's vital that entrepreneurs understand that. For one thing, when you go into a networking meeting or you go into a group, 50% on average are introverts and 50% are extroverts. So if you're not connecting with the opposite personality type and you don't know how to build rapport and interact, you are missing 50% of your networking opportunities, and that's missed business and missed business relationships.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, how an entrepreneur can apply your concept to their business, but that might be the answer, or is there something else?
There's absolutely something else. We teach very specific tools and techniques for the entrepreneur to know how to go into a room, enter a space, show up, look around, identify your opposite style, and move through with body language, with eye contact, know how to have the proper space and wording and pace. There are lots of different tools and techniques, and we show each entrepreneur how to do that to connect with your opposite style. It's vitally important. The best collaborative business relationships are built between entrepreneurs that are introverts and extroverts. It's been proven over and over again.
Well, why is that? Because I've noticed that we get along pretty well. You say you're an extrovert, you say I'm an introvert. Why is it that we get along better that way?
Because we build on each other's strengths. We build on each other's strengths. So as humans, we are automatically prone to be drawn to people that are just like us. We are automatically, I go into a room and normally I would be drawn to people that would be extroverts. As an evolved extrovert, I am able to see people more clearly and appreciate your strengths and bring that to the table. It's huge to bring these collaborative. I'm an absolute champion for introverts. You guys are smart, you're studied, you're brilliant, you're organized, you're systematic, you're usually on time. Extroverts bring something completely different to the table, so we make the best business relationships and we can conquer anything together.
Does that mean I can go out to have drinks with you after we're done here today?
Isn't that what we always do? Absolutely, and we have fun together.
Well, we've got some more video I want to go to learn more about your introverts and extroverts theory.
Okay. Networking tip number 2. I'd like you to write down, we need to acknowledge and honor the person standing in front of us, recognize who they are. Networking 2. These are simple techniques that'll change your life, I guarantee it. Okay. Famous introverts. Why is this important? I want to keep going back. Why is this important that you want to know this? Famous introverts. So all of you extroverts, famous introverts would be Martin Luther King, Oprah Winfrey, Bill Gates, Hillary Clinton, Albert Einstein. So as extroverts, are those people that you would like to network with and have on your business team? Would you want those to be strong advocates and cheerleaders for you in your business? Most public speakers and actors are introverts. Did you guys know that? And guess what? Introverts and extroverts misunderstand each other. We don't get it. Most people that you think are aloof or don't want to talk to you, and these actors or politicians that have very bad reputations for being aloof and not wanting you to talk to them, it's because they've appeared, they've been on stage, they've given everything that they could, and now they need to be alone. They need to recharge. So I want you guys to see each other differently. Once you recognize yourself and your own style And the way you move through a room, you can absolutely see somebody else in a different way and appreciate their gifts. Make sense? Number three. Number three is, after the networking meeting, I really encourage you to show up. Show up outside the meeting and make an emotional connection with other people. How do you do that? Successful Thinkers is great because you have the one-on-ones. Even if you've kind of messed it up in the beginning and you haven't built rapport, you have the opportunity for a do-over. Once you go out and have your one-on-one, I can tell you there isn't an instance where I've gone out on a one-on-one and left that meeting with the same impression as when I sat down. That's a gift that doesn't happen all the time, but you can do that in your life and you can do it with networking. I am a huge advocate and cheerleader of introverts. I lived my whole life as this extrovert, and it wasn't until I learned these tools and techniques that I learned the value of these relationships. The smartest people that you're going to know and the most brilliant people that you're going to meet are introverts. They're thinkers, they're learners, they read, they're educated. Even if it's not a formal education, they're educated. These are people that you want on your team. Again, why is this important? Stanford has done research that says the most beneficial and productive mastermind teams, you guys know what a mastermind team is? The most beneficial and productive masterminds are 3 people. It's made up of a librarian, which is your introvert, a promoter, which is your extrovert, and a pack rat, also your introvert. But the most beneficial and productive masterminds are a group of introverts and extroverts. What happens when you have 3 extroverts in a mastermind group? It's wine tasting. We don't get anything done. I have been gifted in the last 6 years that most of my connections and most beneficial relationships that I've created and that are lasting are with introverts. Extroverts, this is something that we need to look at and we really need to engage. It'll change your life. Guess who's going to be your best friend, biggest supporter, if they connect with you and trust you? In my business, I had some stuff that was going on, and my introverts and my support team showed up. They didn't even ask what I needed. They showed up and they got it done. Extroverts are going to, for introverts, extroverts are going to be your biggest promoter. They're going to be your cheerleader. They help you walk through the room. They help you make sure you're comfortable in a space. They let you be present and seen without being the center of attention. And isn't that, as an introvert, what you want? You want to be safe, seen, and acknowledged without being the center of attention. We both have gifts to give to each other. And once you discover this, it changes your life. One of my clients that I was working with for the last couple years came to me. She was going to networking meeting after networking meeting after networking meeting, and she was an introvert. Beautiful, absolutely adorable, smart. She was having problems because she wasn't being seen in the room. Even though she's showing up over and over again, she wasn't being seen. After 2 years, I tell you, this hasn't only changed her business and helped her business soar, it's changed her personal life as well. Once she realized that she was an introvert and her husband was an extrovert, their communication styles changed. They saw each other differently. Her personal life and happiness quotient, off the charts. She now is speaking in front of people. She's part of a leadership team for a networking group, and she's dancing on stage with an African drumming circle. This is powerful, and it really does work.
And we're back. So I'd like to see if you can share a success story that you've heard of or that you've experienced as a direct result of an entrepreneur hearing your introvert or extrovert story.
Absolutely. I work a lot with different clients that come to me for a variety of things. And one thing that's really important is that you need to identify your style so that you know how that you operate and your personality traits. Once you are able to identify with those, you have a personal power that lends itself to confidence and really helps you in your business. I worked with a man recently, a gentleman, and men that are introverts really are thinkers, they're builders, they get down and they really want to build, and they don't want to release a project until it's absolutely perfect and they're sure that they're not going to fail. This is an introvert trait that's very common. And once I showed him the tools and techniques that he didn't have to be perfect and he didn't have to fix anything, he went into the project with more confidence, went out, sold it, and it was a huge success and connected with all of the community.
I know this introvert, extrovert idea is really just one part of your brand, and you've mentioned quite a bit other. Is there anything else you'd like to say about what you do as a brand and how you conduct business that's outside of the introvert and extrovert idea?
Introverts and extroverts is just one of the topics, but I'm all about building community, building authentic, open relationships. As an entrepreneur, you want to be able to have authentic, deep connections and build community. That's the new way of being an entrepreneur. This old thing about going and passing out business cards and connecting, those people would really not be around in 6 months to a year. It's really building communication and building community so that people connect and they can help you move forward in your business. It's key. So whether it's dating, socializing, PTA mom, professional networking, whatever the social or interaction between people, that's what I focus on. And I do dating websites and I do dating seminars. It's all about the personal connection and really making those relationships count.
I've heard you talk about being the hostess of your own space. What do you really mean by that?
I really think about life as a social event, whether it's business, dating, PTA, whatever it is, it's all socializing and interconnecting with people, building relationships with people. I am the host or hostess of my space, and I teach my clients that whoever is in front of them, you need to make them feel like they are the most important person in the room. And that's part of being the host and hostess of your own space, is to build rapport with people and really connect with them on that level and making them feel at home and comfortable.
Well, let's go back and see how you ended your presentation, put closure on this whole idea of introverts and extroverts.
One more networking tip, and then I'll let you guys breathe. I'm just very passionate about this because I know that I'm seeing it change lives. Once you see yourself and others differently, it really can change all of your relationships. Okay, last one. Wingman. How many of you have a wingman? For an introvert and extrovert, you really can benefit by having a wingman. So if you go to a networking or a social event, if you take someone with you, then it helps an introvert enter the space and not be the center of attention. You have a safe place to go, so there's always someone in the room that you know. And then as an extrovert, Michael and I have talked about this before, as an extrovert, if you have two extroverts that go to a networking meeting, depending what it is, two people can cover the entire room, meet every single person in this room and know about them and share the information afterwards. So a networking wingman is a safe place, it's productive, and it makes things a lot easier. An introvert can be in front of a room and be very social if they feel like they are the hostess and not being part of the guest. So even as an introvert, if you move through the room and you pretend that you're the hostess of this space, guess what? You're going to feel more comfortable moving through it. And we all feel insecure, introverts and extroverts. We just act, think, and physically we're different. We get our feelings hurt, we're insecure, we feel uncomfortable, we just react and handle it in a different way. And extroverts, it makes us feel good, we want to be heard. Introverts need to feel safe, extroverts need to feel like they're being heard. It's true, sorry, but it's true. And if an extrovert moves through a space and feels like she or he is helping and introducing people and connecting people, then you also feel comfortable being the host or hostess of your space. We act differently, our brains are wired differently, we communicate differently, but once we both learn how the other acts and interacts, I guarantee they will be the most valuable, treasured relationships ever. Both professionally and personally, you'll see your mates differently, your children differently. This is super powerful. I've created very specific tools and techniques. We talk about misunderstandings and communication and how we see each other differently. I love people. I love to connect. I would love to connect with every single one of you.
Okay, now we're back. Well, you have accomplished a lot in your career. And going back to the corporate and now in your entrepreneur, you're connecting. Tell me, what of all that are you most proud of?
The thing that I'm most proud of is really having the courage to go out and become an entrepreneur. When I was growing up and going through school and went and got my first 2 degrees, I was going to be corporate, and I was encouraged to have security and be corporate. To become an entrepreneur takes guts, ingenuity. It takes a lot to get out there. And I'm very proud because I was told that I would really never be able to make a living doing this. And when I sat in my $1 million home overlooking the bay of San Diego in my office and could watch the boats coming in, that was my proud moment. And I knew that I had done what I was told that I could never do. That was monumental in my career. And it takes courage to do that. And if you love what you do and you follow your passion and you get the tools and techniques to move through, you build community to help you get there, then you can achieve anything.
Well, thanks for being with us today, Kimberly. You are a true model of success, and that's what we want to bring to the show here. But before we go, I'd like to ask you one last question, as I ask of each of our guests at the end of each show, and that is, what is the one most important piece of advice that you've gotten from a mentor that you would like to share with our viewers and our entrepreneurs as to how to help them achieve their success?
The best advice that I ever got is to know your strengths and your weaknesses and find the strengths in others to complement your weaknesses and learn to ask for help where you need it. By building community, it's so vital. I wish I had learned this early in my career. Once you build community and you ask for help, people show up in droves and magic can happen. Everyone's dreams and goals in that community can take off and be accomplished. Learn to ask for help. That's the best advice I ever got.
Well, that's great advice. I really appreciate it. And thanks again for being with us today. And for all of you out there watching, be sure to visit envisiontv.com for more information about Kimberly Reyes. That's www.visiontv.com. And you'll find a special offer from Kimberly that will help your business work as hard for you as you do for it. And as I always say at the end of every show, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to make it your own. And we'll see you next time on Spotlight on Excellence.